want him to be a prince or a princess, not knowing what the gender would be, which would be different from protocol, and that he wasn't going to receive security.
Prince William is making headlines once again, but this time for issues regarding Meghan. With renewed interest in past rumors and surrogacy claims surrounding Meghan, Prince William has made a bold decision that has led to different interpretations. Is this exposure, and how does it put Meghan's child at risk? Join us as we uncover the truth behind this revelation. Meghan Markle's entry into royal life and early public scrutiny. Meghan Markle entered royal life at a moment when attention was already high. Before this point, she had built a public career as an actress and had also been married previously. These details quickly became part of early discussions about her. They were often mentioned in introductions and reports as background context whenever her name appeared in royal coverage. As she stepped into her new role, everything around her changed at a fast pace. Her daily life, her responsibilities, and her public presence were all adjusted to fit royal expectations. This shift was not simple. It meant adapting to a long-standing institution with strict traditions and careful rules. Every movement, appearance, and decision became part of a wider system that was closely observed. Early commentary did not focus only on her role inside the royal family. It also placed strong attention on her personal history. Her previous marriage was often mentioned as part of her background, and this detail became one of the points repeatedly included in discussions about her suitability for royal life. This created an early layer of public scrutiny that followed her into her new position. At the same time, the tone of coverage around her began to split. One side of discussion saw her arrival as part of a modern shift in the royal family. From this view, she represented change, diversity, and a more contemporary image of royalty. Supporters of this perspective believed her presence reflected a more updated and global identity for the monarchy. The other side of discussion was more critical. This view focused on tradition and structure. From this perspective, there were concerns about whether she fully aligned with established royal expectations. Her background, communication style, and approach to public life were all examined under this lens. This created a clear division in how her role was understood from the very beginning. As time moved forward, her relationship with Prince Harry became a central point of attention. Their connection quickly developed into one of the most discussed aspects of the royal family at that time. Every stage of their relationship was closely followed, and their decisions together were often interpreted as part of a larger shift within the monarchy. When their public role within the royal structure began to change, the focus increased even more. Their appearances together, their statements, and their direction as a couple became key points in wider discussion. This shift marked an important stage in how their position within the royal framework was viewed. At this stage, Meghan was no longer seen only as an individual entering a new family. She was now part of a wider conversation about change within a long-established institution. Every step she took was measured against expectations that had been in place for generations. This made even simple decisions feel significant in the larger picture. As scrutiny increased, interpretations continued to divide. Some viewed her adjustment period as a natural transition into a highly structured environment. Others saw differences in approach and style as signs of tension between tradition and modern life. These interpretations did not remain fixed. They evolved as new events and decisions were added to the ongoing narrative. Prince Harry's role also became more closely linked to this changing dynamic. His position within the royal family, combined with his personal decisions, created a parallel story that developed alongside Meghan's own journey. However, a single decision was about to change the world's perspective of Meghan. How would this affect their image? The royal departure. The moment Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped back from senior royal duties marked a major turning point in their royal journey. This decision did not happen quietly. It immediately became one of the most discussed changes within the modern royal structure. It shifted their position from active senior members of the monarchy to a new and separate path, which required adjustment on all sides. At the core of this move was a change in role. Their responsibilities within the royal framework were reduced, and their public duties were no longer carried out in the same way as before. This transition created a clear separation between their former position and their new direction. It also introduced questions about structure, duty, and long-term expectations within the royal system. Different interpretations quickly formed around the decision. One view described the move as a personal choice focused on independence. From this perspective, it was seen as a step toward building a life with more control over personal direction and family priorities. It was understood as a separation from formal duties rather than a complete break from identity. Another view presented a different interpretation. In this version, the departure was seen as a sign of internal disagreement within the royal framework. It was suggested that the decision reflected deeper tensions that had developed over time. This interpretation focused less on personal choice and more on institutional challenges that may have influenced the outcome. As these different explanations developed, media commentary began to connect Meghan more directly with the direction of the decision. Some discussions linked her influence to Prince Harry's final choice. This created a long-running debate about how decisions were made and who held responsibility within the couple's shared path. The idea of influence became a central point of discussion. Some interpretations suggested that Harry's decisions were shaped by personal relationships and emotional factors. Others argued that the decision was mutual and based on shared experiences within the royal environment. These competing views continued to exist side by side without a single agreed explanation. At the same time, the institution itself became part of the wider conversation. The structure of royal duty, expectations of senior members, and the process of stepping back from official roles were all examined in detail. The departure was not only viewed as a personal change, but also as an institutional adjustment that had to be managed within established rules. Prince Harry's position during this period was also carefully observed. His shift away from formal duties created discussion about identity, responsibility, and personal direction. His choices were often viewed alongside Meghan's, creating a shared narrative that linked both of their decisions together. Within this evolving situation, responsibility became a recurring theme. Different interpretations attempted to explain how decisions were made and how much influence each person had. This created ongoing discussion about internal dynamics and decision-making within a highly structured environment. As time passed, the departure continued to be referenced as a key moment of change. Did the departure signal independence or deeper conflict within the royal family? Pregnancy coverage and rising online speculation. During Meghan Markle's pregnancy, attention around her life reached a much more intense level. Every stage of her journey became a subject of discussion. Simple appearances were no longer viewed as ordinary moments. Instead, they were carefully observed and repeatedly analyzed from different angles. As her pregnancy progressed, the focus often shifted to how and when she appeared in public. Each appearance was measured against expectations shaped by previous royal pregnancies. People paid close attention to timing, clothing choices, and the way she presented herself during official moments. These details became part of a wider pattern of observation. One of the main points of discussion was visibility. Some observers noted that there appeared to be fewer traditional public photo moments compared to earlier royal pregnancies. This difference became a topic of interpretation. It was not presented as fact or absence of fact, but rather as a point of comparison that led to different conclusions depending on perspective. From one viewpoint, the reduced number of appearances was seen as a personal decision. It was understood as a way of maintaining privacy during a very sensitive and personal time. In this interpretation, the focus was on comfort, safety, and managing public attention in a controlled way. From another viewpoint, the same situation was interpreted differently. Some observers began to question whether the level of visibility matched earlier royal expectations. This led to discussions that focused on patterns, timing, and presentation style. These interpretations were not based on confirmed evidence, but they still became part of wider conversation. As time went on, attention also moved toward physical presentation. Posture, clothing, and general appearance during public moments were all examined closely. Even natural changes that come with pregnancy were sometimes interpreted in different ways, depending on the viewer's perspective. This created multiple layers of interpretation around the same set of images and appearances. Clothing choices became another point of focus. Outfits worn during public events were often discussed in detail. Some saw them as practical and suitable for the situation, while others believed they influenced how the pregnancy was visually perceived. This difference in interpretation added another layer to ongoing discussions. At the same time, comparisons with Catherine, Princess of Wales, became more frequent. Her earlier pregnancies had been widely documented in a very structured and traditional way. This created a reference point that many people used when analyzing Meghan's experience. The comparison was not always direct, but it influenced how expectations were formed and how differences were understood. Online discussions began to expand around these themes. Speculation grew around small details, including timing between appearances and the way certain moments were presented. Some claims suggested inconsistencies in how the pregnancy was visually represented, but these remained unverified and part of broader online debate rather than established facts. Despite the growing discussion, there was no single agreed interpretation. Instead, multiple perspectives developed at the same time. One perspective focused on privacy and personal choice. Another focused on comparison and expectation. Both continued to exist side by side, each supported by different reasoning. As the pregnancy continued, every new appearance added to the ongoing discussion. Even simple updates were carefully examined and compared to earlier moments. This created a continuous cycle where each detail was added to a growing collection of interpretations. Prince Harry's presence during this period also became part of the wider narrative. His role in supporting Meghan during her pregnancy was often observed alongside her own visibility. Together, their appearances were seen as part of a shared experience, even though interpretations about that experience varied widely. What really changed after the birth announcement? Why did privacy become such a major point of discussion? Surrogacy claims and the rise of alternative narratives. As discussion around Meghan Markle's pregnancy continued, a separate layer of interpretation began to form. This layer was not based on official statements or confirmed information. Instead, it developed through repeated online discussion, where people began to explore alternative explanations about how the pregnancy was understood and presented. One of the main ideas that appeared in these discussions was the suggestion of surrogacy. This claim was not supported by any official confirmation, but it still became part of ongoing conversations in some circles. It appeared in fragmented form, often repeated in different places, and gradually became a topic of debate for those already questioning earlier details of visibility and presentation. These narratives did not emerge from a single source. Instead, they developed through repeated interpretation of earlier moments. People revisited pregnancy appearances, timing of public events, and differences in visibility compared to other royal pregnancies. From these observations, alternative explanations were suggested and discussed, even without verified evidence. As these ideas spread, they became more complex. Some discussions focused on how pregnancy is typically presented in public royal life. Others focused on the differences in how Meghan's experience was shared or limited in visibility. These comparisons created space for interpretation, and within that space, alternative narratives began to grow. It is important to note that no official confirmation supported these surrogacy claims. However, the repetition of these ideas in certain discussions allowed them to remain active in ongoing conversation. Over time, the idea itself became something people debated, even if it was not grounded in verified information. Supporters of Meghan Markle often viewed these discussions as crossing personal boundaries. From their perspective, pregnancy is a private and sensitive experience, and questioning it in this way was seen as intrusive. They argued that focusing on unverified claims shifted attention away from personal privacy and into speculation that could not be confirmed. On the other side, critics framed the discussion differently. Some treated these narratives as unresolved questions connected to broader debates about transparency in public life. From this perspective, the focus was not on confirming claims, but on discussing inconsistencies they believed existed in how information was shared or presented over time. This created a clear division in interpretation. One side focused on privacy and protection of personal experience. The other side focused on patterns of visibility and public presentation. Neither side fully accepted the other's view, and both continued to develop their own understanding of the situation. As these discussions continued, the surrogacy narrative became part of a larger pattern of interpretation. It was not discussed in isolation. Instead, it was connected to earlier conversations about visibility, timing, and presentation during pregnancy. This connection gave it more structure within the broader debate, even without factual support. The repetition of these ideas played a major role in how they developed. Each time they were mentioned in discussion, they were slightly reshaped. Over time, this created multiple versions of the same idea, each reflecting different levels of interpretation and belief. Despite this, there remained no verified evidence behind the claims. The narrative existed only within discussion spaces and was shaped entirely by interpretation rather than confirmation. This distinction remained important, even as the ideas continued to circulate. Prince Harry's role during this period was also indirectly included in wider discussion. His presence was often connected to broader interpretations of family decisions and privacy choices. However, these connections were part of larger narrative framing rather than direct evidence or statements. As time passed, the surrogacy discussion became one of many overlapping narratives surrounding Meghan's pregnancy journey. It existed alongside other interpretations about visibility, presentation, and comparison with other royal experiences. Together, these narratives formed a complex web of discussion, where different ideas coexisted without agreement. Why did privacy choices become such a major point of debate after the birth? And how did these decisions reshape the entire conversation again? The privacy surrounding the birth. After the birth of Archie, attention around Meghan Markle and Prince Harry moved into a new phase. The focus was no longer only on pregnancy or expectation. It shifted toward how the child would be introduced, and how much of that early life would be made visible. From the beginning, the couple made careful decisions about privacy. There was limited immediate public exposure of the child, and early moments were kept away from traditional presentation. This approach stood out in comparison to earlier royal practices, where newborns were often introduced in a more structured and visible way. For some observers, this decision was understood as a security measure. In this interpretation, the priority was the protection of a newborn child who was already part of a highly visible family. Privacy was seen as a way to reduce unnecessary attention during a sensitive stage of early life. The focus here was on safety, comfort, and controlled exposure. However, the same decision was interpreted differently by others. From this perspective, the limited visibility was seen as unusual when compared to established royal presentation traditions. In earlier cases, royal children were often introduced with clear public moments shortly after birth. Because of this contrast, some began to question why a different approach was taken. These two interpretations existed at the same time. One focused on protection and normal parenting choices. The other focused on expectation and tradition. Neither side fully replaced the other, and both continued to shape the ongoing discussion. As time moved forward, attention also focused on how much information was shared about the child's early life. Details were carefully managed, and only selected moments were made visible. This created a pattern where public understanding of early family life was shaped by limited but intentional exposure. Later, the birth of Lilibet followed a similar pattern. Again, decisions around visibility and timing were carefully controlled. Early moments were not presented in the same structured public way that some people expected based on past royal experiences. Instead, the approach remained consistent with a focus on privacy. This repetition across both births became a key point in ongoing interpretation. Some viewed it as a consistent parenting approach, focused on safety and personal boundaries. Others viewed it as a departure from established tradition, which led to continued discussion about how royal children are typically introduced. As these interpretations developed, the idea of royal protocol became central. Royal protocol refers to long-standing expectations around presentation, visibility, and public introduction of family members. When decisions differ from these expectations, they often become topics of discussion and analysis. In this case, the difference was not just about timing, but also about visibility. The level of public exposure was lower than what some observers associated with earlier royal births. This difference created space for contrasting interpretations, depending on how closely one followed traditional expectations. At the same time, parental privacy remained a strong part of the discussion. Many understood that early childhood is often protected from public attention, especially in high-profile families. From this point of view, the decisions made were seen as consistent with normal protective behavior. The tension between these two ideas, royal protocol and parental privacy, became the core of the discussion. Each side focused on different priorities. One emphasized tradition and structure. The other emphasized safety and personal boundaries. As the children grew, controlled visibility continued to define how early moments were shared. Occasional appearances were carefully chosen, and many aspects of daily life remained private. This approach reinforced the earlier pattern established at birth, where visibility was selective rather than continuous. Over time, this created a consistent structure around how the children were seen publicly. Instead of frequent exposure, there were limited and carefully managed moments. Each of these moments was then interpreted in different ways, depending on perspective. Prince Harry's role during this period was also connected to these decisions. His approach to family life and privacy aligned with the broader direction taken. Together, the couple maintained a consistent approach that balanced visibility with protection. As discussion continued, comparisons with earlier royal practices remained part of the wider interpretation. These comparisons did not produce agreement, but they continued to influence how decisions were understood and discussed. What rules were being applied behind the scenes? Titles, security, and the question of royal standing. After Meghan Markle and Prince Harry stepped back from senior royal duties, attention began to shift toward how their new position would affect their children's status within the royal structure. This stage of discussion focused less on personal life and more on formal recognition, titles, and the practical arrangements connected to royal roles. One of the main points of discussion was the use of titles for Archie and Lilibet. Questions began to arise about how royal titles are assigned and what determines whether they are actively used. In traditional royal structure, titles are linked to position within the family and the working roles of members. When roles change, the application of titles can also be reviewed based on established guidelines. As this became part of wider conversation, different interpretations began to form. Some viewed the situation as inconsistent when compared to other members of the royal family. From this perspective, questions were raised about why certain titles or recognitions were maintained, while others were adjusted. This interpretation focused on structure and equality within the royal system. Others viewed the situation differently. From this point of view, changes in titles and recognition were seen as a standard adjustment following a shift in official duties. When members step back from senior roles, their level of formal engagement with royal responsibilities changes. In this interpretation, adjustments to titles or roles are part of an established system rather than individual targeting or irregular decisions. As these two perspectives developed, attention also turned to security arrangements. Security within the royal family is closely linked to official roles and responsibilities. Discussions began to focus on how protection levels are determined and what factors influence those decisions. These arrangements are not only symbolic but also practical, connected to public duty and official engagement. The question of security for Archie and Lilibet became part of this wider discussion. Some interpretations focused on whether children of non-working royals should retain the same level of protection as those actively involved in royal duties. Others emphasized that security decisions are based on structured assessments tied to role, risk, and official status. As debate continued, comparisons with other royal family members became more frequent. These comparisons were used to understand how different roles within the family affect titles and arrangements. In some cases, differences in treatment were highlighted to support arguments about consistency. In other cases, they were explained as the result of different levels of responsibility and public duty. The structure of the royal family played an important role in shaping these discussions. Within this structure, there are clear distinctions between working and non-working members. These distinctions influence formal recognition, public duties, and associated arrangements. When a member changes their role, adjustments are made to reflect that shift in responsibility. In this context, the situation involving Archie and Lilibet became part of a broader institutional conversation. It was not only about individual status, but also about how rules are applied across different members of the family. This led to ongoing interpretation of how flexibility and structure coexist within the royal system. At the same time, public discussion continued to reflect different expectations. Some believed that royal status should remain stable, regardless of role changes. Others believed that changes in responsibility naturally lead to changes in formal recognition and support. These differing views contributed to a continuing divide in interpretation. Prince Harry's position within this structure also became part of the discussion. His transition away from senior duties influenced how his family's status was viewed within the broader system. This created additional layers of interpretation about how individual choices affect institutional arrangements. As time passed, the debate did not settle into a single conclusion. Instead, it continued to develop through comparison, interpretation, and reference to established rules. Each new detail added another layer to how the situation was understood. What remained consistent was the complexity of balancing tradition with change. The royal structure is built on long-standing rules, but it also adapts when roles shift. This balance between continuity and adjustment became central to how titles and security arrangements were discussed. Who really decides how royal rules are applied? Why do some decisions stay unclear to the public eye? How royal structure led to conflicting interpretations. Prince William's position within the royal family becomes an important point in wider discussion as attention turns toward the future of the monarchy. As the direct heir to the throne, his role is closely linked to how the royal structure is understood, maintained, and interpreted. Because of this, even decisions that are not directly connected to him are often viewed through the lens of his future responsibility. One of the key areas of discussion is how royal rules are applied across different members of the family. These rules are designed to separate working royals from those who are no longer carrying out official duties. This separation affects titles, roles, and institutional arrangements. As the structure is examined, attention often focuses on whether these rules are applied consistently in every case. Some interpretations suggest that recent institutional decisions reflect a clearer distinction between working and non-working royals. From this point of view, the system is seen as becoming more defined, with clearer boundaries around responsibility and public duty. In this interpretation, changes are viewed as part of a structured process that aligns with established royal practice. Other interpretations present a different view. From this perspective, decisions are seen as part of normal administrative structure, rather than personal targeting or individual focus. In this understanding, adjustments are not linked to specific relationships or personal dynamics, but instead follow existing guidelines that apply across the institution. As these interpretations develop, the conversation becomes more complex. Instead of one clear explanation, multiple viewpoints exist at the same time. Each viewpoint is supported by different assumptions about how the royal system operates and how decisions are made within it. Prince William's future role adds weight to this discussion. As the future monarch, he represents continuity within the royal structure. Because of this, his position is often included in broader interpretations about how the institution is evolving. Even when he is not directly involved in specific decisions, his presence influences how those decisions are understood. Over time, the discussion expands beyond individual cases and moves toward larger questions of structure and identity. People begin to focus on what it means to be part of the royal family in different capacities. This includes the difference between active duty and non-active status, and how those roles are defined within the system. As this happens, competing narratives begin to form more clearly. One narrative focuses on structure, rules, and institutional consistency. It sees decisions as part of an organized system that applies standards across all members. The other narrative focuses on interpretation of fairness, inclusion, and perceived differences in treatment. It examines how decisions are experienced and understood from different perspectives. These two narratives do not merge into one. Instead, they continue to exist side by side. Each one offers a different way of understanding the same set of events. This creates a situation where no single interpretation fully dominates the conversation. The idea of royal identity also becomes part of this discussion. Identity within the royal family is closely connected to role, duty, and public responsibility. When those elements change, interpretations of identity also change. This leads to ongoing discussion about what defines membership within the royal structure and how that membership is expressed. As more details are discussed over time, the overall picture becomes less unified. Instead of one clear narrative, there are multiple overlapping interpretations. Each one focuses on different aspects of structure, responsibility, and personal choice. Prince William remains central to this conversation, not through direct involvement in every decision, but through his position within the future of the monarchy. His role represents stability within the system, and this influences how changes within the family are viewed and understood. The situation does not settle into one conclusion. Instead, it develops into a fractured narrative where structure and interpretation exist together without full agreement. Each perspective contributes to how the story is understood, but none of them completely replaces the others. What remains is a complex picture shaped by rules, roles, and differing interpretations of the same system. The royal structure continues to operate, but the way it is understood continues to vary depending on viewpoint and context. And as this final stage of interpretation settles into place, attention slowly moves toward the lingering questions that remain unanswered, where structure, perception, and personal understanding continue to overlap in unexpected ways. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.